What's going on, guys? Nintendo Direct here with a new video series called the Nindie Showcase, where I take one indie game from the Nintendo Switch per week and do a quick review over it. I will score the game out of 10 based on 5 categories: graphic, gameplay, story, music, and price. 2 points per category, so a game could come out with a perfect 10. Today's game is a top-down 8-bit action-adventure game called Kamiko. Let's go ahead and get into the video. I would describe Kamiko as a top-down adventure action game reminiscent of old school classic 8-bit Zelda. This game was developed by Japanese developer Skipmore and was released last April, so yes, I'm a little late on this review, but if I had to be honest, I had been dodging this game. I had seen it in the eShop over and over and over again. I saw the price and I kind of scoffed at it, but finally I purchased it, and boy, I am glad that I did. I made the mistake of equating value with price, which was a huge mistake. The game was $4.99. I scoffed at it. I kept passing it by, but it ended up being a very good game, and so at the price point of $4.99, it gets 2 points. Now, of course, the graphics are only 8-bit, so there isn't much for me to talk about when it comes to resolution or frame rate or HDR. That's just not what this game is. But the artwork of this game is absolutely beautiful. The color designs are top-notch for being what it is. The colors pop out. They have a place. Carefully designed in specific places. There are times when you need to recognize certain small differences on each stage. Colors aren't so blatant that it just gives away and alarms you that this is where the secret is, but it's not so bland that you can't tell. Everything as far as artwork, character models, graphics, enemy models, everything is just right. So it'll get a score of 1.5. I can't give it a full 2. It's only an 8-bit game, so 1.5. Now, as I mentioned before, it is an action-adventure game, but there are puzzles in this game. The gameplay is pretty much simple. You spawn into the area, you gotta find these orbs, you gotta get to 4 different towers, activate them, the door opens to the boss, and you go in for the boss fight. Now, the combat is pretty much simple. You want to chain as many combos with enemies as you can, because the more combos that you chain, the more energy that you gather allows you to do your supercharge or special attack, whatever you would like to call it. There are 3 different characters, one who has a sword, one who has a dagger and a shield, and one who has a bow and an arrow. Each have different special moves, each have a different role and a different experience when it comes to playing. I will get to that when we get to the story portion of the game. But as far as the gameplay, I pretty much explained it all. Fairly simple. I would suggest playing through all 3 characters to get the full experience of the game, because one playthrough is not the same. You get a completely different experience using different supers, different abilities from each of the 3 characters. So when it comes to gameplay, once again, we're gonna have to give this a 1.5 out of 2. Now, in the beginning of the game, you get to select between 3 divine maidens: Yamato, Uzumi, and Hinome. At the beginning, each story is the same. You're talking to a god. He asks you to go to the earth to defeat the demons and become the next Kamiko. Hint, that's where the name of the game comes from, Kamiko. The first of the 3 divine maidens that you get to select is Yamato, a girl born to a lineage of water maidens. She uses a long sword with long reach. The sword is called Kuwasanagi no Tsurugi. A mouthful indeed, but wait until you hear the other names of the other weapons for the other 2 maidens. Uzumi is a girl born in the forest to a lineage of earth maidens. She uses a bow that can strike from long range called Yasakani no Magatama. And last but not least, Hinome, the youngest of the 3 water maidens. She was a girl born into a lineage of fire maidens. She fights throwing the shield Yada no Kagami, and she throws the shield like a boomerang. It returns back to her, and she also has a dagger. She might have been the funnest of the 3. She also might have been the most difficult of the 3. But as I mentioned before, the story is quite bland. It's quite simple. Much like the gameplay, you drop into each stage, you get the towers, you get to the boss, you defeat the boss, you finally get to the last boss, you fight with him, you have a duel to the death, you save the world, and you become the next Kamiko. That simple. So the story, in my opinion, is bland. There's not much there. There's not a whole lot of backstory into the 3 Divine Maidens. Therefore, this is the lowest scoring category of the 5 categories. The story gets a half of a point. Now, as I mentioned in my channel before, I'm a big fan of music. I was a music geek in high school. I play in a band now, so whenever I hear good music, I automatically am attracted to a game. I automatically float towards that. And the soundtrack for this game, for being an 8-bit game, was wild. I absolutely loved it. When you first drop into the forest level, immediately you are hit with urgency when the music starts. As soon as I heard that tune, I knew I was immediately in for a treat. It set the mood perfectly for this game, for the beginning of the game, for that level, the urgency of going through each area, each puzzle, each 4 towers. It was just an absolute treat, and it only carried over into the next water level, which was another soundtrack that I absolutely enjoyed. A very chilled, laid back, just absolutely in the groove, in the pocket type of song. And perhaps the most intense of the 3 songs was the fire level. This soundtrack, as soon as you dropped in, hit you like this. Now, this song might have been my second favorite of the 4 levels. My favorite was probably the water level. That one just had sort of a hip-hop, laid-back arrangement to it, and I'm just drawn to that sort of thing. But this one was the most urgent, the most intense, the most hype of the 4 level soundtracks. And then the final stage song, the final stage soundtrack, set the mood exactly for what was to come. The final boss fight, I just can't say any more about the song. It was not my favorite, but set the mood exactly where it needed to be before you got to the last boss. Another good one was each boss fight. That song was dope. That song was intense. That song really got me going. And there was even times where I stopped playing and fighting the boss just to listen to the song. It was great. It was awesome. And it had a good pocket drum in the pocket groove to it. And then the final theme when you beat the game was a good melodic, laid back sort of rock beat to it. Very J-pop-ish, if you ask me. And of course, this is a Japanese game, so that would make sense. But the last theme was a good one. Man, I can't say any more about the soundtrack. The soundtrack was just, to me, for what it was, an 8-bit game, absolutely dope. I commend the devs for this one. Whoever made the soundtrack, thumbs up. I'll have to give the soundtrack for this game a 2. 2 points for the music and for the soundtrack. Absolutely perfect. So there you have it. 2 points for the price, 1.5 points for the graphics, 1.5 points for the gameplay, 0.5 point for the story, and then another 2 points for the music, resulting in a score of 7 out of 10 for the game Kamiko. This is a great game for the price point that I got it at, $4.99, $5. If you have a Nintendo Switch, go ahead and cop it. I guarantee you, you will not be disappointed. So there you have it. Let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know if you will buy this game. This has been Nintendo Direct with an Nindie, whatever you want to call it, Nindie Showcase, Nintendo Nindie Showcase. I don't know yet. I'll see you guys later.